Started. We've got a recording in progress. Welcome everyone. Happy to have you here. We'll keep letting people in, but we'll get started. For those of you who may not know, my name's Louise Petrozella. I'm a senior program manager for education and workforce development with BioMADE. I'll open up with just a few slides about BioMADE and its mission. Again, I'm sure most of you are familiar, but we'll just move through this quickly so we can get on with the presentations. We launched in April of 2021. We are sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense. It's a cooperative agreement here. These are some of the objectives through BioMADE, about BioMADE. And today we're focused on developing the workforce and how to prepare students and trainees for jobs in the biomanufacturing, bioindustrial manufacturing sector. Vision and mission here, we certainly are invested in building the ecosystem around bioindustrial manufacturing. And again, really, we're focused on, at least through Education and Workforce Development Division, really looking at the promise of industrial biotechnology, getting folks into good-paying jobs, and helping the U.S. With its security and stability throughout the supply chain. Okay, of note, we do have, outside of today, 2 more webinars scheduled, and then we will have had all 10 of our current project report outs or presentations for Project Call 1 and Project Call 2. Please note again, March 16 and April 20, we'll take a look at some the rest of those projects. And moving to today, we have North Carolina University, State University up first with Dr. Gary Gillespie and Dr. Melissa Shruji. They'll be talking about the current and future bioindustrial workforce and educating folks therein. And then we'll have Dr. Laura Kavanaugh. She's with Genome Insights, and focusing on nanobiotechnology, looking at the soil. I had the privilege of visiting Laura in December and attending one of her workshops. Fascinating stuff. Glad you're here to experience it. Logistics, go ahead and type questions into the chat box. We'll have Gary kick us off, then Melissa, and then Laura, and then we can answer questions at the end of the presentations. Okay, with that, I will stop sharing. Again, welcome everyone, and we will turn it over to Gary to start.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Let me get going here. There we go. Can everybody see the slides?
We can.
We're good?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so thanks everybody for joining us today. So the name of the project is Educating the Current and Future Bioindustrial Workforce. And as Louise said, my name is Gary Gillespie, and I'm the director of the Biomanufacturing Training and Education Center at North Carolina State University. And I'm going to be presenting the first half of the webinar, and then my colleague, Melissa Shruji, who is an assistant teaching professor in the Department of Molecular Biomedical Sciences and the Biotechnology program, will take over in the second half and show some of the interactive lab simulations that she and her team have been developing. So I thought I'd start off very simple here with our very simple project scope, and then our motivation for executing this scope. So the main thrust of the project is to develop a comprehensive online course in biomanufacturing. We are very interested in developing expertise amongst students and professionals in this growing and emerging bioindustrial manufacturing industry. And the plan is to have the course completed by the end of this year, so by December 31st, 2023. And our reasons for developing the course is, as you all are well aware, the field of bioindustrial manufacturing is growing, and bioindustrial manufacturing uses complex unit operations and processes to produce products. And on top of that, there is also needs to be an emphasis on the issue or the area of responsible innovation as it relates to bioindustrial manufacturing. So because of these things, a truly skilled workforce is required to make this industry go. And really to help create that skilled workforce, we feel that more accessible training and education opportunities are needed. And so in the next couple of slides, I'm going to give some course details, but about sort of the overall course itself. And then after these two slides, we'll get into the sort of the deeper dive into the course content and how we're delivering the course. So the course is a comprehensive online course on bioindustrial manufacturing. And there are really three major topics that we are covering. And those topics are molecular biotech fundamentals, and then the principles and processes around biomanufacturing and social dimensions of biotechnology. And the course is being developed by three groups within North Carolina State University. And in fact, this is the first time these three groups have collaborated. And the first is a biotechnology program, which is one of the units that Melissa is part of. And the biotechnology program at NC State is a minor-only program for NC State grad and undergrad students that offers state-of-the-art lab-based education for students. So that's the biotechnology program. The Genetic Engineering and Society Center at NC State is also part of this. And that particular center serves as a hub for really research and scholarship around opportunities and challenges related to genetic engineering. And then finally, there's the Biomanufacturing Training and Education Center. We go by BTech, and that is the unit that I am part of. And BTech offers courses for NC State students and industry professionals. We offer minors in biomanufacturing and master's degrees in biomanufacturing for our NC State students. We also do a lot of training and education for professionals. Okay. And with that, just a little bit about who our audience is. So initially, we envision that the audience will be mainly professionals, and particularly professionals who are new to the industry. But I think once you take a look at the content that we're developing, you'll see that it would also make a great course for university students, for college students, for community college students. So I think in the longer term, we'll plan to roll it out to those groups as well. And the delivery of the course, as I have already mentioned, is online. And in particular, it's asynchronous online. And those asynchronous course modules are being developed using a tool called Articulate Rise 360, which is a very nice tool to develop online content with. And I'll talk to you a little more about Rise 360 in a few minutes. But the modules that we develop in Rise 360 will be integrated into the course through Moodle. So we will use NC State's Moodle learning management system to house those Rise 360 modules. And then that Moodle course will become part of what NC State calls their Woofware outreach service, which allows participants from outside of NC State to access course content. And so here's a breakdown of what the course looks like. And so you can see we're breaking the course into modules. We've got 4 modules, 4 online modules that are all under development right now. And move some of the Zoom stuff out of the way here. The first module is just an introduction to biomanufacturing and an introduction to the course. And I'm going to show you a little bit of content on that in just a minute. And then the second module is the module dealing with molecular biotechnology fundamentals. And you can see the lessons that are included there. This is an important module for the course because I'm sure, as you're aware, many of the cell lines that are used for biomanufacturing processes are genetically engineered. And so having that molecular biotech component to the course really lays a foundation for the tools that are used as part of industrial biomanufacturing. And then in module 3, we'll focus very much on the biomanufacturing piece by looking at the principles and processes around industrial biomanufacturing. And you can see there we'll cover lessons on upstream processing, downstream processing, and then analytical testing. And then finally, you see that we have our, sorry about that, we have our module on the nexus of biotechnology and society. We have a number of lessons that will be used to cover that topic. And then the last one listed there is actually a capstone activity that is designed for university students. So maybe eventually we can roll this out to professionals, but it is what we are calling a dolphin tank workshop. And so what I'm going to do here is we're kind of going to hop around a little bit. The objective is to show you a bit about the content of the course, but also to explain to you how we're delivering that content. So first, I'm going to take a bit of a closer look at Module 1, just to show you a bit about what RISE 360 looks like and the content that we're developing there. And then I'll give a little more explanation about what this Dolphin Tank workshop is about. And then I'll turn it over to Melissa, and she will talk about the interactive lab activities that she is preparing as part of Module 2 of the course. Okay, so what we've done here, there we go, is we took a bit of video showing Module 1 for the course and just kind of stepping through it to give you a sense as to what RISE 360 looks like. So on the top of this, the biomanufacturing principles, processes, and responsible innovation. That's actually the title of the overall course. And so if I'm going to, whoops, see if I can get this video started. There we go. Play this video so you can see. You click on Start Module. And this is, I'll pause it here for a second. This is what the RISE 360 content looks like. And this is just the Module 1. You can see we've broken it up into a variety, a number of topics. Sorry, I keep losing the play button here on the video. I'll stop messing with it. But, and this is us just kind of going through. So if I click on products made by biomanufacturing, which we're going to do here in a minute, it will take you to the page that deals with those products, but you can see all of the topics that we're covering here. So obviously biomanufacturing involves many different types of products. We've broken those products up into the industry sectors that they're being used for. So healthcare is important, food and beverage, agriculture, and I'll just continue scrolling through here. But you can kind of see how RISE 360 lays out, or how we can lay out content in RISE 360, how we can bring in interactive components like flip cards. We move on to the food and beverage products. We give examples of these products. We start getting a bit into the chemistry of the products. We cover cultivated meat, since it seems to be the hot topic these days. We look at household goods, and this is, again, just very much an overview of products. We look at materials that are produced through biomanufacturing. So that's a main component of that first module, is just to get everybody who is taking the course on the same page with regard to products being made. And then we kind of launch into bioprocesses and what do the bioprocesses look like. So you can see here we break a process up into stages. Stage 1 is production, stage 2 is harvest, stage 3 is purification, and you can just keep scrolling through this content. Stage 5 here is stabilization, and then get a summary of the content. But hopefully that gives you a good sense as to what RISE 360 is like. And I think it's much better than just putting content out through PowerPoint presentations. And then just briefly on the dolphin tank, and then I'm going to turn it over to Melissa. But so what is the dolphin tank? It is a sort of a play on the TV show Shark Tank, which I'm sure most people are familiar with, but it is meant to be a kinder, gentler version of Shark Tank. It is a cooperative competition to imagine future products in biomanufacturing. So the way this will work is we will recruit students into the dolphin tank, and the students are going to come from various backgrounds. There will be engineers, biologists, social scientists, and humanities students who are part of the teams. And those teams are going to come up with product ideas. So they will, their project will involve both technical design and responsible innovation. Each team, and this is a day-long activity, so each team will be coached by doctoral candidates from an NSF program at NC State. There will be a panel of judges that will provide feedback on the ideas that each team presents. And it's my understanding there will be prizes awarded for good ideas. And we are planning to pilot the dolphin tank in April. And we're hoping that the dolphin tank experience could serve as a template that other organizations might want to use for kind of a nice way to sort of get some of these, training and education concepts, or the educational concepts around bioindustrial manufacturing out there. Okay. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Melissa, who's going to talk to us about the interactive lab activities. So Melissa, just tell me when to advance and I'll do that for you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. So when we were brainstorming this design of this holistic, innovative online curriculum, we needed to think of new ways to educate the growing bioindustrial workforce using technologies that were available to us. And we knew key to this content was the addition of technical skills training. We all recognize and value in-person hands-on skill training, but it can have its limitations and its challenges, reducing the number of qualified individuals entering the bioindustrial workforce. Some of these challenges include accessibility, the disability status or medical hardship of individuals, lack of institutional resources or expertise. And when we think about an educational setting, and also in-person experiences don't afford students the ability to practice or iterate outside of class time. Or as we learned 3 years ago during a global pandemic where in-person activities were greatly limited. Next slide, please, Gary. To circumvent these challenges and bridge the gaps in technical skills training, we created an immersive 3D browser-based virtual training simulation platform. All users need is a computer with internet access and a web browser. And what users are guided through are laboratory techniques that completely recapitulate what they would do in a real laboratory setting. Visually impaired users can use screen readers because this is a browser-based simulation, and all tools and objects in the simulation are textually labeled. Users will follow the same procedure in the simulation as they would do in the real lab. This includes using an electronic laboratory notebook. Now, what's really unique to this simulation is that users are making independent decisions that have real consequences on their laboratory outcomes. And users will get technical feedback to improve their decision-making as they would in an in-person laboratory session. And this is really designed to augment in-person skills training and provide more accessibility for technical skills. Next slide, please, Gary. So when designing the curriculum for the simulation, we designed it around skills necessary to perform sterile mammalian cell culture technique, because it's a commonly used skill in biotechnology and bioindustrial sectors, and one that is a high demand skill by employers. And so we set this up with 3 main student learning outcomes. The first was to perform sterile cell culture technique using a biosafety cabinet. The second was to be able to passage mammalian cells using this technique, and to count cells and apply dilution calculations, which serves as a cornerstone to any other type of application using this technology. Next slide, please, Gary. So we designed the simulation using an environment modeling off our own laboratories here at NC State University. And so if you focus your attention to the GIF on, I believe it's the left-hand side of the screen, what you're looking at is a user, I'll wait till it repeats, suiting up with their personal protective equipment prior to entering the cell culture laboratory that contains a biosafety cabinet in the center, cell culture incubators on the left, and a microscopy station on the right. The GIF on the right shows your user using that microscope station to visualize cells prior to one of the laboratory steps in the simulation. Next slide, please. So now that you have an idea of the simulation environment, I'll take you through a quick tour of the user interface. So the interface of the platform at the bottom is designed to show you your left and right hands. And they're able to perform a number of actions and interactions with the equipment and supplies available in the simulation. In the top right corner, you'll notice is the electronic laboratory notebook. And that leads users step by step through a given procedure. This could be expanded to show all the steps at once, or it can be contracted. The procedure also has key terms and steps that are highlighted that a user can select and learn more about what that term means. In the top center of the interface is a lab timer and a risk meter. So as users perform actions in the simulation, it's going to track those actions and those that pose a risk to the technique. So any action that could potentially contaminate their cell culture will cause the bar in the risk meter to increase. And so this is giving users kind of real-time feedback on what they're doing in this laboratory procedure. And in the top left of the interface is the navigation panel that allows users to move through the different areas in the simulation laboratory, as well as save data or repeat a step. And so what, Gary, I'm going to have you do now is repeat the video, and I'm going to walk you through what's going on. So this is an expert user, just as a primer, an expert user that's going through one step in a procedure. And this procedure is applying Hanks balanced salt solution to a cell culture vessel as part of procedure of trypsinization. So go ahead and play the video, Gary.
All right. Sorry about that, Melissa. I jumped the
No
gun.
problem. So the user's using their right hand to grab the pipette aid and add a 5 ml serological according to the laboratory protocol on the top right. They're using their left hand to open the bottle of Hanks balanced salt solution and draw up 5 mils of the solution, again, according to the protocol that's shown in the right. Once that's done, the user, using good technique, is going to recap that bottle, that open bottle of Hanks balanced salt solution. And then with the same hand, they're going to open their cell culture vessel. And with the other hand, dispense the solution onto their cells. And once they've completed that step, if you noticed on the top right, the notebook went on to the next step after the one that has been completed. And so users will go through each step in the protocol like this. Next slide, please. So now that we've developed this web-based simulation, we're starting to, as a prototype, transfer what we've learned in this web-based version to virtual reality. And so what we'll show you in a moment here is a sneak peek of an extension to the simulation that we're working to develop this experience using the Unity game engine. And importantly, we want to explore these options because it gives us the ability to integrate biohaptics. In particular, for example, like biohaptic pipettemen that we're developing to accompany the training simulation, because it will provide users with a tactile experience that better recapitulates what an in-person training would be like. And so this video that you're going to see is simply a prototype of the capabilities that can be done in VR and what a VR experience would look like. So this is video taken of an individual who has the VR headset and haptic gloves, and they are in a real setting actually moving around a space. But what they're seeing is what this video is showing. So if you want to go ahead and play the video, Gary. So the user now is imaging their hands that are in front of them. They can move their hands around. They can look around the room. They can move forward. They can pick up their clipboard that shows the lab protocol, which is to suit up in personal protective equipment. Next step it shows is to enter this virtual laboratory, and they need to retrieve their dish as one of their steps. So we get a quick tour around the space. They go over to the cell culture incubator, grab their cells. They look back at their protocol and realize that they need to visualize that on the microscope, so they're going to walk over there. And the terms on the whiteboard do change as users complete different steps. And there is audio to this that you can't hear right now, but it does give you an audio-visual experience. And this just shows some of the other capabilities you can do in this environment. Open and shut drawers, turn water on and off, pick up a soap dispenser and use your finger to depress that, walk around to different areas of the room, pick up bottles and different pieces of equipment, Here they're walking over to a tabletop centrifuge, and they'll put some tubes in there in preparation to centrifuge some samples. And they'll walk back over to the biosafety cabinet. And in a moment of frustration, take a bottle and throw it across the room. So just really illustrating the types of capabilities that you can do with online skills training. And so hopefully this gives you a nice snapshot of what this would look like. And with our remaining time, I'm going to pass the baton back to Gary, who'll discuss what we've accomplished so far in our grant and the next steps.
So thanks very much, Melissa. That's really cool stuff. Just to close it out here, we'll be brief about it. The course content that we are developing is, we're definitely over the 50% mark in terms of the amount of content that we've developed. So we're more than halfway there. As you can see from Melissa's slides, that interactive augmented reality lab experience is nearly complete. We talked about the dolphin tank. The planning is underway for a pilot dolphin tank activity, and that is scheduled for April 15th of this year. The course shell, the Moodle shell, is under development. We still will want to solicit and address a review of our content. And we have had some internal review, internal to NC State review, that's already been going on. And then the course should be ready for delivery by the end of 2023. And so with that, we are done. And I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Gary, Melissa. Incredible stuff. Very exciting. We look forward to questions from folks participating. We'll hold those until the end, and we will turn to Laura and University of North Carolina, Greensboro, Genome Insights. Take it away, Laura.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you see my slides and hear my voice? Uh-oh.
You got it,
That's
Laura.
not great. Oh, okay, you
Yep.
can hear it. Well, before I start, I just want to say, Gary, Melissa, that was awesome. I think your course is fantastic, and I love the virtual reality. That's going to be a very powerful tool for educating people. So thank you for that. I'm excited to talk about our nanobiotechnology to inspire the next generation of skilled biomanufacturing workforce project. And what we were really looking for in this project was to provide an immersive learning experience with some really cutting edge nanotechnologies, including scanning electron microscopes and handheld DNA sequencers, to really not just capture the intellectual experience for students, but to really provide them with a very close, exciting emotional connection with the power of biomanufacturing, the fact that microbes, and millions of them, are everywhere in our environment, in the water, in just the tiniest piece of soil, that they are really important and impactful for health, farming, the environment, and to harness the power of those microbes. And that is virtually a limitless opportunities for bioindustrial manufacturing. We also wanted to supplement those personal experiences and hopefully really exciting experiences with some tours of places where that was actually happening, so that they could see the opportunities that were presented by this. The students we're targeting first were veterans, and especially we're targeting veterans who are transitioning to civilian life, and felt like they were really important for this program because they have the technical skills from their military service, but they're also in a position where they're looking for new careers, and bioindustrial manufacturing just seems like a really great fit for where they might be interested in heading. And then also we wanted to address teachers, so basically teaching the teachers. And in this position, we're looking at community colleges, high school, middle school, and open to other options. But the thought was that by connecting with the teachers, they could bring the message to thousands of other students. So amplify really the message, and catch students also at a time early in their educational career where they would go, I never even heard of bioindustrial manufacturing. I would have never thought of it, but now this sounds really interesting, and I could start to change my future education to explore that more and really get into it. It's a great professional development opportunity for teachers, and we offer 1.9 continuing education units for them as part of their participation in this. We have a really great team. I enjoyed working with this team, but we're headed up by Dr. Daniel Herr, who's at UNC Greensboro Joint School of Nanoscience and Nanoengineering. He is an expert with extensive and deep knowledge about scanning electron microscopes. We're also teaming with NCA&T, which is coupled with UNC Greensboro. They're a historically Black university and a national leader in STEM education. Mr. Robert Elliott's on the team. He's actually a veteran, and he's founded several veteran organizations, one Soldier to Ag, which is actually associated with the NC State, and also the Veteran Farm of North Carolina. So he brings a lot of insight for us about what veterans need and how to tune our education for them. I come to the team with expertise in DNA sequencing, and I have my own company, Genome Insights. And then Mr. Russ Reed, who's at Forsyth Tech, I've listed him here as outreach and communication, but if you've ever met Russ, you know he's just an all-around great person with great ideas, and he's really been the heart of the team to bring it all together. We have some great corporate collaborators as well. Hitachi Corporation, I'll show you some pictures later, and you'll see that they've done a fabulous job of supporting the remote scanning electron microscope operation and providing more information about the activities around scanning electron microscopes. And Novozymes, which is a research organization in Research Triangle Park, also really valuable to demonstrate how all of these different ideas and trainings come together and actually produce products. So the way we set this up, we're delivering 4 different workshops over the course of 2 years. Each workshop is 2 days. And in the summer workshops, we're targeting students that would be teachers. And in the, not winter, but winter, we're targeting veterans. We had our first class in the summer of 2022. This is our first class of teachers. And I'll just dive into some of the instruction we provided for them. First, we did an online instruction. It was an hour and a half, and it included 3 different sections. The first one was on magnificent microbes, and to really provide them some background. They probably haven't been studying microbiology if they ever did, but it's been a while probably since they were in school. So kind of refreshing their minds on the basics of microbiology, really targeting human health and how important microbes are in human health, because that really connects us all with why microbes are important. Transitioning into why they're also really important in soil health, how they relate to farming. And then I actually work on a regenerative farm, which is a farm that really focuses on soil health by increasing fertility and microbiology in the soil. And I shared my experiences with them from what I'm doing on the farm. Another section we talked about was just DNA structure and sequencing, giving them a history of the DNA. You know, when do we even discover it, basics of structure, and some of the DNA sequencing evolution. So showing them how the technology that they're used in the lab actually is the cutting edge and latest and greatest. So we wrapped it all up with discussing how all of these things get into developing really cool products in bioindustrial manufacturing, from keeping airplanes from catching on fire to generating milk imitations with microbes, and then even great resins and things that can use on fun things like skiing. But in Gary's talk, he went through a list of those items. So we kind of went through that in here to show them where this could take their students if they were teachers, and also the veterans, what kind of opportunities were out there. So we had our first day in the lab when we took the teachers into Forsyth Tech. They really enjoyed getting their hands dirty, so to speak, with the samples. So this gentleman's holding the 2 samples that he and a colleague were working on. And the laboratory environment was really appealing to them. Everybody had a chance to touch everything, taste everything. I was really impressed with their level of curiosity and also how much they enjoyed getting their hands on pipettes and trying to do things and really asking detailed questions about what was happening. And then after the DNA extraction from the microbes, we did the DNA sequencing. And they were very curious about this. You can see in the lower right, I actually have the DNA sequencer is circled. It's about the size of a phone, actually a little smaller, and it's connected into my laptop. So these are very mobile, accessible systems. I'm using that same laptop now to present. So there's nothing amazing about that laptop, but it can be hooked directly into the sequencing machine and start sequencing in a small space with really simple equipment. And what's especially powerful and what I love about this sequencer is that it actually gives you real-time information. So in the top left of this slide, that is showing you right now as the sequencer is running the health of it and the status of it. And then in the lower right, I know these pictures are a little hard to see, but it's actually showing data of the DNA reads that it's sequenced and the links to those different reads and all kinds of information about what's happening at this moment while they're watching it on the screen. So it's a great teaching tool. And after that, we went to a tour of Novozymes, which I mentioned earlier, is a place where bioindustrial manufacturing research really takes place. That's in Research Triangle Park here in North Carolina. They produce products, enzymes, using microorganisms in all kinds of areas of research. So that seemed to kind of wrap it up and help them understand the real applications. And then on day 2 of the workshop, we had a great day at the Joint School of Nanoscience and Nanoengineering in Greensboro. This is a program that Dr. Herr has put together, and it's a really great way to pull in a number of different concepts. But in this picture, I'm telling you the top right, we're videoing in Hitachi, and they gave us some information about how Hitachi and their programs for education using scanning electron microscopes. And then what was really cool about this, I just love what Dan has put together and his vision for this. But students were able to come up to the lectern there and actually scan samples in real time with a microscope that was sitting in Chicago. So that's the remotely operated scanning electron microscope. They got to take their own images, zoom in on parts that they thought were really interesting. And what's exciting about this program, especially that Dan's put together, is this is something that's transferable. So the scanning electron microscopes in Chicago, so you could do this kind of thing from anywhere in the country. And so it's a really powerful way to extend the impact of this kind of training. Here's another student looking at another image, and I have been to this already twice, and I'm always really awe-inspired by just the type of things that are in the tiniest piece of soil or water. So I felt like this really connected with the students. On top of this, we then went and toured the joint schools where they have actually on-site scanning electron microscopes and dove further into some of the images. The students were right there and could really see it, taste it, touch it. They could ask to move around or look at this or zoom in on that. So that was a great place again to really connect with what was going on with the life in the soil. And we wrapped up there with a tour of JSN, and Dan talked about some of the really exciting research going on there. There's also all kinds of posters and research documented on the walls, and Dan is just a rich resource for explaining and finding some really intriguing stories about the different things that they're doing with the nanotechnology. So after that, we actually wrapped up with a review of the sequencing results that we had produced on day 1. So that's another thing that's really exciting about this, is the students could, and they really got interested in, what does my sample look like? What are the things that were there? But in just the course of a number of hours, in 2 days, we went from soil to results, and we could talk about the things in the soil. And this really brought to life for the students that this is real. There's thousands of microbes in the soil, and those are there to prudentially interact with and develop new products with bioindustrial manufacturing. So we had the teachers do an exit survey. All participants said they were very likely to recommend the workshop to their colleagues. All the participants ranked the 5 different workshop experiences, the 5 different sections, as excellent or very good. And we did get an email later saying I expected a lot, but this session was a real treat that exceeded my expectations. So it was just a joy to work with the teachers. They were very engaged, and the hands-on part, they said we'd like to see more of that actually in the workshop. So I took that back, and we've actually added more hands-on work in the future workshops. So we're tracking, what is the impact of this workshop? We don't want to have the teachers just come and have a great experience. We want that to impact students and get back out into the schools. So we're getting feedback. The community college instructor is actually taking this DNA sequencing technology to his classroom. He's got students collecting samples at the farm associated with the college, and they're going to be doing sequencing. And I'm actually going to be working with them and helping them generate those results. And they're going to make presentations in April in Raleigh at a conference. And then actually, we also have gotten feedback from high school teachers that they've used the material that were in our training sessions to interact with their students, to expand the conversation and to help students understand and get excited about what's really happening with all the microbes around them. So that was the first workshop. And then our second one was with veterans in December. And in this case, I added an additional session to our online training. So we actually had 2 separate online sessions. And when I put into this one was farming with microbes, because a lot of the farmers came, a lot of the veterans came with a strong interest in farming, because they were coming with Robert Elliott, who was the veteran on our team and who has the NC Veterans Farm. So to address those interests, I added farming with microbes as a section, and took some time here to really talk about how plants and microbes interact, how this is so important for our soils, that the microbes aren't just providing food for the plants. Those are super important value, but they're also doing a lot of additional things to help plants grow, like creating soil structure, holding water, helping them fight off pathogens, all kinds of different things. And again, I discussed with them this regenerating farming system that we're employing at the farm where I work. So I was able to show them things from me driving on the tractor and how we're making microbial extracts and all kinds of different things to really connect with their interests. So they loved getting in the laboratory also. I have to say they had a great camaraderie among all the vets, and it was a joy to be with them, just like it had been with the teachers. They loved also the program that Dan Herr had set up, and you could see some of the images here that they're creating from their own operation of the scanning electron microscopes was just amazing. We had a special treat because we got a visit from Dr. Aubert from who's the dean of JSNN, and took some time to stop in and chat with us, which was really great to see her involvement and enthusiasm. And then we went, and actually with them, we took a tour of NCA&T, which was a good match for their interest in the farming space. We saw the dairy there and got great feedback from the person who runs that dairy there about all the different things they're doing and research. So it's a research farm, and they're doing a lot of interesting things at the dairy there. We toured the small ruminant research space, and also their gardens. This is the winter time, so these were mostly indoor, but it was a great conversation. And then we again concluded that one with results on the sequencing that we had done in the lab, showing them, there's just thousands and thousands of microbes in the soil doing all kinds of different things. So they also had very positive feedback. They had comments about that the workshop really piqued their interest and talking about maybe going back and getting a master's degree in the field. Wanted to really get connected and connecting nanotechnology with regenerative ag. And they had some really nice comments about the instructors. And I could certainly say that they were also a joy to teach. So what I wanted to just wrap up with here was that the program is also extending and connecting with other programs. So actually next month, the Alakai, I think is how they say it, project will be talking about their plans and progress. And I'm going to be going there to present the DNA sequencing modules to the students there. So, I love that we're all able to be exchanging information and different resources across the BioMADE community. And then also my connection through them connected me with a high school teacher in Hawaii who wants to connect with me and develop a curriculum for her students around soil health and DNA sequencing and using this handheld sequencer in her classroom. So these are really the things we want our work to not just impact the people in attendance, but certainly we do want to impact them, but we also want to get that message out and magnified, and we're seeing that happen. So we have 2 more workshops planned. One is in July again this summer, and another one in December for the veterans. So thank you very much, and I'd love to hear any questions or thoughts or comments you might have.
Thank you, Laura, and thanks again to Gary and Melissa as well. We can go ahead and field any questions. Feel free to come off mute and ask the presenters what you'd like to ask. We did have some questions in the chat. I think Melissa was answering in the chat, but we'd love to have some discussion about what's been presented, so I'll turn it over to participants. And I have questions if nobody wants to get started. I think for Gary, I think I heard that you had piloted some of the materials already with students. I'm wondering what kind of feedback maybe some of those students provided to you based on those materials.
So on the BTech side, for the content that we are developing, haven't piloted with students yet, but I think Melissa has, so I'll let her pick up. Let's see. So on the BTech side, we have piloted. So this is the biomanufacturing principles and process internal review. Yeah. But Melissa, do you maybe you want to say something about this? The one thing I could add is that I know our friends in the Genetic Engineering and Society group have piloted their modules. So I'm not yet aware of what the feedback was, but they're in the process now based on that feedback.
Melissa, do you want to add? Yeah.
So part of at least the simulation curriculum, we have piloted now with 3 cohorts of students of over 100 each. So 300 students total over the course of 3 semesters. And each time we do so, we get really great feedback. They think it's realistic. They're immersed, they're focused in the simulation. Importantly, they acknowledge some issues with the simulation as well that we've been able to rectify. So we feel like we're getting close to a really good place to being able to deploy this, as part of our online curriculum platform that NC State is developing.
Thank you. And Peter, you had the question that was on my mind too, concerning some of the social aspects of the course at North Carolina State. Gary or Melissa, can you weigh in on that?
Sorry, I'm getting back into the chat. Let's see.
I noticed in module 4, lesson 7 in particular, the module is called biotech, or the lesson is called social commentary in that module. Maybe some examples of topics there.
Yep, in that module. So that is the module that is being developed through our Genetic Engineering and Society group. So to be honest with you, what's listed there is probably as much as I can tell you. So there's communication. There's a lesson on responsible research, on regulation and policy, on ethics, democratic governments, public engagement, and social controversy, and then societal implications. So those, and I'm just basically reading the lessons that are part of that that module.
Great, more to come. Dan, I think you've got your hand up. If you come off mute.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Louise. A question for Gary and Melissa, also back to, I mean, this is related to the question you just answered previously around your pilots. And I'm curious as to what other metrics you might have about the success rate of the course and how you might measure that. Specifically, as compared to in-person training, are you trying to hit a certain threshold of effectiveness over in-person training through the immersive? And then the second question has to do specifically with the VR. And if you're looking to have everything you're doing also available in VR, or only certain components of the course, lab sides of the course, lab parts of the course, in which the VR adds a certain level of effectiveness that a 2D web-based experience can't do.
Yeah,
So
Dan,
I can-
go ahead. Do you
Go-
want to do the assessment one first,
Yeah,
Gary, and then I can follow up with the second part.
Sure. Thanks, Melissa. So on the assessment part, what I can say there is there will definitely be post-course evaluations that students will take. BTech already does a number of online training, or offers online training opportunities for professionals. And we do get input from students on their experience and through post-course evaluations. We have not designed those evaluations yet. It would be nice to grab data or gather data that kind of compares the online experience to a more hands-on experience, and maybe we'll somehow design that into those evaluations. The only other thing I'd add, the main reason we're doing this online, I don't know that I made this clear when I was speaking, but it's really just an issue of accessibility. As Melissa said, we're all about doing hands-on training because we think that's the gold standard. But clearly creating online opportunities is going to allow better accessibility. So Melissa, go ahead.
And Dan, in terms of your question about the virtual reality, in addition to the web-based simulation platform, that would really only be for specific skills where a tactile experience would be very helpful for a user in training. I don't know if the audience has a lot of experience in virtual reality, but users can really only be in virtual reality for a set amount of time, typically in under an hour or less, because there are some I don't know how to best describe it. Being in their environment too long for some users poses some issues. So we want to make sure that experience is very short, but it only emphasizes those skills where biohaptics would really help a user in that technical skill. Maybe it's with understanding how to use a micropipette, for example, or applications like that. Otherwise, the web-based would be kind of the foundational to do many of these things.
And then one more thing I would add to what Melissa is saying, I think once we get this course complete, there will be many opportunities, I think, to expand the interactive part. So for example, we don't have plans to make any interactive lab simulations around, say, a large scale fermenter, but that's something we would like to do. So I think once Melissa has completed all of her work on just, working in a biosafety cabinet, for example, then we would like to extend into larger pieces of equipment that are more, larger scale manufacturing.
This really provides a foundation where we can layer on more virtual technical skills training.
Right. Thank you. And thank you for the questions, Dan. Appreciate it. Ashok and then Steve.
Yes, good afternoon. Nice work on the VR experience. I was curious that what is the duration of the VR course, and how much it will cost roughly? Any figure in the mind?
So right now our focus is on the web-based simulation. And so that is what a user will use when they enter our online training platform. That's both the biomanufacturing, biotechnology, and genetics and society training sessions. The VR is really a prototype that we hope to build off what we've done in this BioMADE platform moving forward. And so right now, the idea is to keep that pretty limited in terms of time. And what we develop, we hope to make it accessible to users in the future, but we're just really in the prototype phase for the AR or for the VR portion of that. Our focus right now is on the web-based simulation.
And then on the question of cost, we haven't yet come up with a cost, say, for the entire course. What we can tell you is that BioMADE members will definitely get a discount for whatever the cost is, typically around 40%. We've worked with other organizations, say Nimble as an example, where we've developed a course with support from them and have given their members 40% discounts. And we're also trying to come up with a model where participants, instead of, they could choose to take the entire course, meaning all of those modules, or they could select. And so we haven't worked out all of the details on that yet.
Looking forward to more information. Thanks, Gary and Melissa. Steve.
Oh, great, thanks. I'll try to be brief, recognizing time. Love the Hitachi scope work. We did use those extensively back in my days at Dow. And so hands-on is great, especially for interaction. Couple of questions. These would be more in extension. Have you thought about it? So in our part of industrial biotech, things like distillation or other more chemical technologies are what's really needed in part of our workforce, but also because that is moving to something like textiles. And so I know NC has this great Wilson Center on Textiles. Is there a way that you might move that along? And then lastly, so I was one of the speakers at GES at one point. I was interviewed in their history of biotech. And what struck me when I walked through NC State's Museum of Science, their art museum, there's this great picture of ice minus bacterium. And even the professors didn't know its significance in the history of biotech. And so are there opportunities to be developing additional training courses around biotech history? That does tie into societal understanding also. So thanks, just kind of question.
Interesting biotech history. I think it would make a great course. That we don't have plans this go around to do that, but certainly that could be something that we consider either to add on to this course or for future courses. And then you mentioned textiles and distillation. And, as far as distillation, the bottom line there is distillation won't be one of the unit operations we cover in this go around. If we need to add, we're happy to continue building the course once the project is complete. So I think that, maybe we should view the course as, this is a sort of a platform we're building here that can continue to be built even after this project is completed.
And Tom, I see you have your hand up.
Just a really quick comment and something for consideration. Amazing presentations today. For the virtual reality, really represents an opportunity to engage folks and persons with disabilities. Very, very good opportunity to think about how we can expand beyond the regular scope of impact here. And I can appreciate the work that's gone into the project which you're developing. But I wanted to point that out in moving forward and thinking about the potential for larger and broader audiences to impact with the VR, AR scenarios. Over.
Thank you, Tom. I'm sure that's top of mind for many of us and so many of the folks that are working on projects now. We will continue these discussions in hopes of scaling up, scaling out. Please consider BioMADE a resource, a point of facilitation and connection to others. Laura, before you click off, I just want to know if you've got an example of maybe one of the veterans how they're going to use that learning from the workshop in their daily lives on some of their farms.
Well, we certainly got a lot of feedback that they had a bit of an epiphany that soil is actually a living thing and that their farming practices really need to change in order to think about how to nurture that life in the soil. A lot of farmers today, I think, surprisingly maybe, or maybe not, but they don't really think of soil as an inert substance and then grow things in that way. So we got a lot of feedback that they just really fundamentally kind of changed and shifted what they think about soil. But it will be interesting, I think, to collect feedback going forward of, did you plow less in your fields? Did you stop using fallow seasons? Because those are all things that really damage microbes in the soil health. So we'll keep asking them then. Thank you. And I want to just for real quick mention how much I really think that virtual reality training in the lab is really phenomenal. I wish I'd had it when I was learning, just because, helping people be familiar with the environment before they even come in for the actual training and what things look like, that will really accelerate the training. And the fact that the virtual instructor doesn't forget really important key things, which a real life instructor sometimes does. So I think that's really going to be fantastic in accelerating people's acquisition of skills in the lab.
Wonderful. Great final thoughts, Laura. Looks like we're a little past time here. It's great to see you on the line, Peter. Peter will be presenting next month on his project on one of the islands of Hawaii, the Big Island. He's there working with indigenous folks. It'll be an exciting look at what he's doing. In addition, we've got Signature Science. They're down in Texas. They're really focusing on developing learning around biorisk, biosecurity. So that will be, I'm sure, illuminating to us here at BioMADE and those participating on the webinar. I want to thank again Gary, Melissa, and Laura for your presentations. We have recorded this. Thank you, Perrin. We will put it on the BioMADE YouTube channel. Not sure if you folks know, but we have a YouTube channel, so keep checking it. Thank you again. Appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Take good care.
Thank you, Louise.